Okay, get started. So welcome everyone. I'm Andrew, and I'll be joined with Sanjeev later, who will do a demo. This webinar is about how to increase sales and also to optimize sales efficiencies with zAgile Chat Bridge. And that's done through integration of Slack and Salesforce. So first off, before we get into details, I'll remind you that we have a safe harbor agreement because we may be covering some details that are more forward-looking, so just keep that in mind. Okay, before we jump into the description of the webinar itself, a brief background about zAgile for those of you not aware. The company was founded back in 2006. We have hundreds of customers. There's a selection of some of the more famous brands that you're probably aware of. And notably, you can see we actually have a lot of integration software vendors, which is interesting as they're the experts in broad enterprise integration. And what zAgile handles is more for mid-sized markets on particular deep integrations. And our key products that you see listed there is zAgile Connect, number one on the Salesforce App Exchange for integrating Jira and Salesforce. And of course, what we're going to be covering today is ChatBridge, is integrating Salesforce and Slack. So now to the topic of the webinar itself. It's all about increasing sales and sales efficiencies. What do I mean by that? Well, first up, for increasing sales, because ChatBridge allows this integration of Slack and Salesforce, you're able to have heightened response times and be able to adhere to whatever very strict SLA requirements that you have. Thanks to that, we've had customers be able to offer increased premium services with respect to support. So in other words, you can actually sell guarantee of reaching the highest SLA thresholds. We've talked about that a little bit in prior webinars. We might go into more detail in future webinars as well, but we're not going to drill down on that for now. Likewise, for the second point that you see there, maximizing cross-team collaboration, breaking down communication silos, saving time, and also saving budget because you don't need as many Salesforce seats. We've touched on that in prior recorded webinars, so I invite you to go to our website to check those out. We have blogs on those as well. This last one is where we're really going to focus, doing more from within Slack. So we have touched on before about requesting demo, creating leads, creating tasks, all doing that from within Slack. And we're also going to focus on this last one, and the following slides will kind of set that up for you, is using Salesforce to Salesforce workflows for approvals. So what do I mean by that? Let's jump in. Well, with challenges in Slack, the challenges in Slack are regarding workflows. What do I mean by that? Well, there's nothing really to help you with, when you send a Slack to someone about getting a reminder about, hey, I Slacked that person, 2 weeks ago. What happened to that? Likewise, if you have a channel, it can be quite busy in there that, one person is really kind of monopolizing conversation, and maybe you have something particularly important, and that can get lost in the noise pretty easily. Clarification. So if you have a back and forth of, hey, I need a yes or a no answer, sometimes that won't quite do it. Maybe the manager needs some clarifications around something, and it's kind of hard to stay in sync about that. You also want to have a record of a decision that's easy to find, that's more associated to your systems of records. So in other words, hey, you approved that 3 months ago. Well, let's not deal with going into Slack and doing all sorts of searches to try to find that. Instead, it would be nice that it's associated with the system of record like Salesforce. And then just finally closing the loop, which is similar to some of the comments I made before. But, we had this outstanding question 6 months ago. What happened to it? It just kind of got lost. So the nice thing here with Salesforce is that there's workflows that you can have from Salesforce that are incorporated within Slack, and ChatBridge helps you glue that all together. So for example, buttons to approve or reject or reassign to seek clarifications or changes. So it's just simply a boom, I select approve, and now it's part of the system of record, and we can move on to the next step of the process. You have decisions that are documented. So for an audit trail, for example, you can go back and say, yep, we can query this and we can see that it was done 2 months ago, as approved. Even handling something more sophisticated like multi-level and multi-party approvals is very valuable to have, very powerful to achieve that with Salesforce from Slack. And then finally, closing that loop that I just mentioned. Hey, 6 months ago, we had this outstanding question. Yes, we've closed the loop on that with this workflow. So how does that all pertain to sales? I have this bucket into 2 rough main categories. The first one is around account management, really the nitty-gritty of dealing with sales. So sales quotes and contracts, getting approval on a higher discount, and we'll talk about that more in just a moment, and also with the demo. Getting customers onboarded and helping make sure that everything is streamlined with them. And then the other stuff, it's somewhat sales related directly, but more often than not, it's more kind of back office stuff, more rudimentary. So for example, purchase request, I need my manager to approve this laptop purchase. Hiring, do we give thumbs up or thumbs down to the candidate, and what kind of other processes do we want to adhere to? Travel requests, may I get this approved, manager, for example, my trip to see the client. Expense approvals for that trip, and then even the more mundane like PTO requests. Can I get a week off 3 months from now after the quarter's ended, for example? So I'm going to set up the demo that Sanjeev is going to handle. Or Sanjeev, did you want to talk about it more, or would you prefer me to handle that right now?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so the basic situation is you've got your account manager. They want to create their quote, get it approved, and then send it to the customer. And then finally get that back and send it to the finance team so they can get credit. So as we all know, that there's typically discount thresholds though. So in this particular example, we're going to say the account manager, they got their quote all set up, but now, the threshold is usually 40%, and they need to negotiate something a little bit more for this customer. They're probably having some back and forth with their sales manager, and they just want to have that approved. And then by the sales manager and have it as a system of record. Then once that salesperson receives it, then they can go on to another workflow. We're not going to cover it here, but for example, they have a similar acceptance that's required from the finance team so that it goes officially in the books. We won't handle that part necessarily here, but I'll hand it off to Sanjeev here, and you can talk about showing the 2 chats between the account manager and the person's sales manager. Okay, over to you, Sanjeev.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew, and greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our ChatBridge webinar series. So for the demo, we will focus on some examples of how ChatBridge can help improve collaboration between sales teams who primarily work in Salesforce and their counterparts in the organization who are typically active and available in Slack. And as Andrew mentioned, ChatBridge allows you to use your workflows across Salesforce and Slack by bridging the 2 applications together. And as he pointed out, we will use a simple approval process to demonstrate this capability. Now, ChatBridge also allows you to perform actions in Salesforce from Slack. These may include, for example, creating a lead in Salesforce, querying and updating a contact or opportunity, and retrieving a report from Salesforce. And you can do all of that from Slack, and we will show you some examples of these. So let's first start with an example of how you can quickly create a Salesforce object from Slack. A scenario for this would be, for example, if you receive a call or voicemail from a prospect expressing interest in a product or requesting a demo session. You can easily capture this lead in Salesforce directly from Slack. And a similar example, maybe if a customer reports a problem or requests information regarding a product that customer support needs to follow up on. In that scenario, you could easily create a case from Slack. So let's see how ChatBridge allows you to perform some of these actions. So here I am in Sales Channel in Slack, and I'm logged in as account manager. So for example, let's start with the Slack commands that ChatBridge provides for this purpose. So you can, as I mentioned, you can create objects in Salesforce from Slack. You can query them, you can update them, you can also retrieve reports. So these are all the commands here that you can use for the purpose of posting messages to your Salesforce counterparts from within Slack, as well as retrieving and updating information. So what we're going to do is to create a lead. So what I'm going to do is just start with sfnew as a command. Now, if I just type it in without any parameters, then it will give me a list of objects that have been configured to be created. So here we have configured account, case, and lead that we can create from Slack. So here I want to just emphasize that you can configure in Salesforce, in ChatBridge package configuration, all the different objects that should be creatable, should be updatable, and you can also identify individuals within Slack who may be able to, who are allowed to perform these actions. So there's a lot of permission capability, there's a lot of configuration in terms of not only the objects you can create, but what fields, what are the required fields, and what fields you want them to be able to populate. So let's start with lead. So because we just got a call from someone who's expressing interest in a product, and since I'm in the middle of something else, I want to just quickly create a lead so I don't forget it. And I can also, as part of creating a lead, I'll post a message to whomever is assigned this lead to follow up on, okay? So let's just say, and the fields that we have created here, this is basically the Slack quick create form, and we want to leverage it because it allows you to do things quickly without having to go to Salesforce and spend time there in creating leads and going through the whole process. So I'm just gonna create a lead, and once I create it, I will send a message for them to follow up with whatever it is that I want to give them in terms of follow-up information. So this is all you need to do. So now a lead has been created in Salesforce, and this is the information that I provided. And you can also go to Salesforce here to actually see that lead being created. So here's the lead, and here's the rest of the information that I had provided. So now it's whomever owns this lead who can go and follow up in terms of filling out the rest of the information. But this is just a way of quickly capturing something, okay? Now, so not only am I going to create a lead, I'm also just going to send a message to them, and I might say, for example, prospect is interested in a demo. Please follow up, okay? So now I've done two things here. I created a lead and I sent a message. And of course, the acknowledgement of that message is also returned in Slack. So now let's look at the Salesforce side of it, because the other thing I also want to point out is the conversation and the collaboration that can occur between Salesforce and Slack. So we created this lead, and here's a message that came also from Slack. So whomever is owning this lead can return some response back saying, yes. So here's the response back. So this is to give you an example of how between Salesforce and Slack, collaboration can be achieved through these conversations. And so response comes back, yes, we have followed up, and demo is scheduled for next Monday. Now you can respond to them saying, great, please keep me in the loop. So again, just a way to show that there's conversation threads that are maintained in both sides, okay? So that's one example. Here, as I said, I've created a lead, I've followed up, and I've posted message to whomever owns the lead. And so this will continue, and this thread can continue here. If I want to share some additional information, for example, some attachment, or if from Salesforce I want to send some information back, the thread is there in Slack for following up. So that's one example of how you can use ChatBridge to perform actions from Slack and have this level of collaboration between Slack and Salesforce. Now let's move on to the next example, where we're actually going to create, first actually query an opportunity. So I'm going to work with opportunity. I'm going to query an opportunity from Slack. So I will work with this global media 400 widgets, okay? And I'm going to query it. I'm also going to update this opportunity. I'll update its stage, and I will also update the discount. And in our approval process, we have initiated it based on a discount. So if I enter discount of like over 40%, then it will automatically initiate an approval process, which will involve, so first it involves the account manager, that's me. And it also then involves the sales manager. So there are two parties to this. And so we have actually another user logged in, and this time I'm going to use my mobile, and I'm logged in there as sales manager, and so I will respond to the approval request using my mobile device. So there are two users here. There's an account manager here, and there's a sales manager here. So let's start first with the account manager. So as I said, first I'm going to query an opportunity. And to query anything from Slack, you can identify some keyword that matches. I mean, I can either say global, and it will return me all objects that are matching global, or I can just say, for the sake of expediency, 400, because I know that this opportunity here is global media 400 widgets. So let's just say that 400. Now it will go and find all the objects that are matching this keyword. So we see this global media 400 widgets and some information about this opportunity returned to Slack. And as I said before, this is all configurable. It's up to you to configure what fields you want to be able to show as part of summary related to any object. Now, what I can do here, for example, is I can say, I want to view the details of this object. So once I do that, it will go and return information about this opportunity. Now, this information that's returned is actually simulating a page layout, as you could see, and we convert it into PDF. So again, it's up to you to create a page layout that would be essentially containing all of the information that you want to share with Slack users. So it doesn't have to be everything that is representing an opportunity within Salesforce. You can select a subset of those fields and related objects as part of the page layout. So here, for example, you can see some information about the opportunity, the stage, perception analysis. There's no discount associated with it. There's no approval status. And so I see this information. Now, what I can do, for example, is, let's see. Now, what I might want to do here is share this opportunity on this Slack channel. Now, sharing will actually pin the opportunity to the channel so that other users can also see it. Since I'm going to be taking some actions on it, now the opportunity is pinned to the channel, and whatever actions I perform on it will be visible to other users. So again, it's really up to you to decide if you want to do that. But here, since I'm working with this opportunity, I'm going to just pin it to this channel. Now, the second action that I want to take. So now that I have viewed the details, I'm going to go ahead and edit it, because what I want to do next as account manager is to initiate approval process related to this opportunity by updating the discount percentage. So just to make this interesting, I mean, we're performing all these actions from Slack to give you an idea that there's a lot you can do from Slack within Salesforce without having to go to Salesforce. And so here, for example, I'm going to edit this opportunity. I will update the stage. So let's say it's now in proposal price quote. And then I'm also going to add discount percentage of 45. So as I do that and it updates the opportunity, you will see that an approval process will be initiated, okay? So now here's an acknowledgement or confirmation of the fact that this opportunity has been updated. Discount percentage is now 45, and the stage is now proposal price quote. And not only that, from Salesforce, we also get an acknowledgement here that my approval request has been submitted already. Now let's go to the other side. So I'm going to now go to the second user, the sales manager. So here, there's a message for the sales manager related to this approval request. So as we have set it up, it's up to me as a manager now to approve, reject, reassign, recall. So all of these actions that are related to the approval request that have been configured. So let's just say that I'm going to approve it. And I will post some comments saying, and now I'm done. So now all of this without having to go to Salesforce. So here you will see the message, request was approved, and here's some information about it. And when you go to Salesforce, I refresh this, you will see all of the information, all of the actions that we've taken. So now you have discount percentage is 45, approval status, and the stage. So again, all of that we have actually performed from within Slack. So that's really the power of ChatBridge, is there's a lot of things you can do from within Slack, taking quick actions. And the whole point and whole purpose of this is to create efficiency and allow salespeople to perform these actions quickly without having to go back and forth across these applications. So on that note, Andrew, I will turn it back over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sanjeev. That was phenomenal. So we can wrap up here, and then we'll have some time for Q&A as well. So the thing that I want to emphasize, what Sanjeev just said, didn't even have to go into Salesforce. All that was done from within Slack. And that's sticking with the mantra of zAgile, which is empower each team member to do what they need to do within the tool or application that they are accustomed to working within, without forcing them to go over to someone else's tool set or application. So again, what we covered here was about ChatBridge empowering you to increase your sales and to draw cross-functional alignment for the purpose of course, increasing optimization for the sales team. So I invite you to also check out recorded webinars that we've covered in the past with respect to, with really an emphasis on customer support. One being how to minimize churn and ensure customer support SLA. And as I pointed out, that could be a good opportunity as a new sales offer in terms of guaranteeing an SLA. And then also how to monitor the effectiveness of your customer support team. I also want to point out that we'll be having another webinar, probably the final one in this webinar series for a while, around ChatBridge in March, around engaging your community, March 4th, in fact, to be precise.